Hi, welcome back. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sewjo, and this is my channel where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. And this is my weekly update, number 67, and it is June 9th, 2024. So I finished another quilt top this week. It's right behind me. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Didn't get any quilting done, but you know, on the long arm that is, but it is what it is at this point. Now, I will say the winner from last week did claim their prize, and it is off, and it is, she hasn't quite got it yet. It's stuck about 40 minutes away from her house in a distribution center, so hopefully she gets that in the next day or two. That'll be great. But she reached out immediately, and it was off. She's such a wonderful person from her email that I could tell, so I'm happy that she is the winner of a new quilt. Now, I will be giving another quilt away when I reach that 1,000 subscribers. As of this recording, I'm about 83 away. So I'll be giving another one away soon. Now, this week I did get a couple questions, and I was just going to answer them here. The first one is, they asked if I was self-taught. Well, yes, maybe. Not really sure how to answer that. Other than to tell you how I learned to do this stuff. So when I was in, I think it was around 3rd grade, my mom taught me how to cross stitch, and that's where that started. So I've been cross stitching since then. And then through high school, I learned how to sew in home ec. And even though I learned how to sew in home ec, I grew up with my mom sewing different things. Now, she didn't really quilt when I was growing up, but she did sew, and I had no interest in doing that at all. But in home ec, I did make a pair of shorts and a duffel bag. And then also I did some plastic canvas in high school through through this crafts class we took through art, me and a group of friends, which it was more ceramics and drawing, which, you know, I can't draw to save my life. I can't draw at all. I have trouble drawing a stick figure. So my senior year, I actually got an art award, which was quite a surprise considering I can't draw or paint or anything like that. But I do know how to do needlepoint. So I'm not really sure how to answer that. Mom taught me how to cross stitch. I learned how to sew, not quilt, in home ec. And then when I was an adult, actually, my husband's mother started working at a place where I was working, and I saw her crocheting one day, and I'm like, that's interesting. So I asked my mom to teach me to crochet, and she told me no, to buy a book. So that's what I did. So I taught myself to crochet. And actually, that's where how I met my husband too, was at work through his mom. But anyway, then around that time also, I started sewing again. And I had borrowed a machine from my mom, and then I eventually bought a Black Friday special at Walmart, and I started sewing. And when I started sewing, I was sewing more garments. And then I think I really started sewing a lot when my daughter was about 3, my son was about 1. I really got into sewing a lot of dresses, summer dresses for both me and my daughter, just because, you know, I love wearing summer dresses, but I also don't like spending the exorbitant amount of money they want for a simple casual dress. So I started sewing, and I was also crocheting. I crocheted a lot. I quit crocheting while I was pregnant because I couldn't do any needlework, any crocheting, any of that, because it just made me nauseous and vomit. But one day while I was crocheting, my husband told me to stop crocheting because we had too many blankets in the house. So I just said, okay, and I took up quilting instead. So he's never really told me to stop doing anything since. And I may have stopped crocheting for a little bit, but as you see, I eventually picked it back up. Now, when it came to quilting, I taught myself through Eleanor Burns' videos, through PBS. I watched a lot of her videos, and that's kind of where I learned to quilt. Now, so as far as actual classes for quilting, I did take a couple classes, not to start off with, but later on. I once took a class for free motion quilting on the sewing machine that I did with my mom, and I took a paper piecing class once with my mom and some cousins. And then I think I also took a class, it was more embroidery, but along the lines of embroidery, but it wasn't really embroidery. It was more for the heat setting technique of how to add crayons to fabric to heat set it in, which I had in a lot of my embroidery quilts that I've shown that I've embroidered that, where I've used that coloring technique and setting it in with the iron. So that's about where all of my learning training came from. So I'm not really sure if you can say I'm self-taught, not self-taught. I don't know. But with quilting, there's always new techniques, always new patterns, always things that I just kind of like, hey, let's try it. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. What sticks, sticks. Now, I will say, as far as like I said, growing up, my mom was sewing. But how my mom sews and I sew are like completely different. And that's okay. We all have our different methods and processes. Everybody should do what works for you. I know growing up, my mom was not someone to follow a pattern. She might get some pieces and cut it out, and then the instructions she threw out the window and she put together however she felt like putting it together. That's not me. I usually, if it's something that I bought a pattern for, I will follow the pattern. However, I will tweak it a little bit in that I don't do the steps like completely in order. I will combine steps. So I may do, as you guys seen, when I come down and I pen, anything that I can pen, I will pen. So it may be I'm doing step 150, 322 all at once, and then I'll come back and do the next step. And it works a little faster for me that way, and that's how I do it. But like I said, everybody's different and everybody should do what works for them. But that's just a little bit of me. So like I said, I'm not really sure if you can say I'm self-taught, not. I do try different things, which I just pick up and do. I don't necessarily take a class to do. And there's always many videos and tutorials out there on YouTube. So that was the first question that was asked. The second question someone asked me, and it had to do with the Peaceful Basket quilts from the Sew Sampler, the month block of the months. And that was asking about doing a video or explaining how I do my cutting on those pieces. Well, I can't do a video on that because that would give all the sizes away, and that's a copyright issue that I would not be able to do. So I'm going to try to explain how I cut out fabric for a block of the month. For like that. Now, I have done a few for Fat Quarter Shop, and I've bought the kits, and Fat Quarter Shops always, in my opinion, gives you extra fabric. They give you enough fabric so you don't really have to worry about, you know, am I going to run out or whatever. I always have so much fabric left over. So what I will do, now I've only done block 1 of the Peaceful Baskets. I still need to do block 2, but I'll probably wait until I get block 3 because I like to cut out and sew a couple blocks at the time. I don't like to do just one block at a time. That's just how my brain works. But when I cut out my fabric, when I get it, I will first of all use any leftover fabric from the previous month. That same fabric I will go through and look, be like, okay, what are the biggest pieces I can get out of the fabric I have that I need? And I will just cut those out. And then I will look through the pattern and I will go through what is the biggest piece I need out of that particular fabric. And I will cut that. And I'm just going to throw some sizes out there. I'm just going to throw some pre-cut sizes like 2.5, 5s, 10s, and so on. So if I need a 10-inch square, I'm going to cut an entire strip of 10 inches. 10-inch strip. And then I will cut my 10-inch squares out of that. And then, so I will go through and cut what's the next big size. Okay, well maybe I need some 5x10s. So I'll cut those. And then maybe that's the end of the strip. So then I will go back and be like, okay, what is the biggest piece that I need now? And maybe that's a 5-inch. So I'll cut the 5-inch strip. And I'll cut 5x5s. And then what's ever left, I can cut out my 2.5s or whatever I need. And that's kind of how I do it. I know that's kind of confusing, not really having a piece of fabric to show, but that's just what I do. I look for the biggest piece of fabric, biggest piece that I need, and cut that first in a strip, and then I will use that leftovers to cut down. Okay, so now what did I do this week? Well, this is the quilt top that I finished. It's hanging behind me. This is the Fat Quarter Shop from Fat Quarter Shop Sew Sampler from a couple years ago. The Shooting Stars. Let's go in, take a closer look at it. So there is the top of it, and we're just working our way down. We're coming to the bottom. Got one more row. Okay. Now this week I didn't have any videos coming out during the week just because, well, life got busy. I've got a lot of videos I want to do, but sometimes don't always have the time to do them. So now I will say this coming week I'm not going to have any videos coming out either, because I'm going to be getting my house ready for a graduation party next weekend for my daughter. And then I've got a bunch of other things coming up. I've got my son's 16th birthday and some other things. So I won't be having any other videos coming this week. I may not even have a weekly update next weekend, just depending on what's going on. But hopefully a week after that I can get back into the grind and get some things going. I've got another video I want to do of the What Will I Make series, and that's using charm packs. I've got that waiting to be done. But like I said, life just has other plans sometimes. So this quilt top means that I have made 16 quilt tops this year. So I'm still keeping track, even though I haven't been able to get anything quilted. All right, now what else did I do for piecing? Let's see. I think I did cut out a new pattern here. Worked on this Swallows quilt pattern. This is a sew sampler. This is the bottom of the bird. These are these pieces. I think this goes over here. And then this will be the top of the bird. So top and bottom. Kinda, sorta, you can see it. So, right now this is where I am. I've got that bottom pinned on. And that's where I am. And that. So once I get that, I can move on to the next step. But it's getting there. So I worked on that sew sampler project. Oh yes, and this is the new one I cut out. This is a sew sampler project, and it's a table runner. However, I am not much of a table runner person. I mean, I will do them, but I prefer a quilt. Now, so on the back of this, they did have some different sizes, and they had a junior jelly roll in here. And I went down here, and they had this for a quilt down here, which is 54.5 by 62.5. They also had the placemats and the table runner. So I looked down here, and I learned over here, and it's telling me what all we need. Well, I already had the binding and the background. It's telling me I need 2 jelly rolls. 2 of the junior jelly rolls, which would be 1 full-size jelly roll. But actually, I opened up, and I started looking at it and how they had it cut. I could get all of those pieces cut out from just the jelly roll that they had the junior jelly roll, because I think there was 21 pieces. So I'm doing this quilt over here because I had enough pieces from that. So again, I think, like I had saying earlier, when they do a kit, they're usually pretty generous with their fabric. So, and the same with like then, I think they were giving like extra room, but you know, I've been quilting for a while and I know how to make them work and to get the most, how to cut them most efficiently to get the most out, and I did. So that's what we're gonna do. So let's see. There's a lot of this that's just pinned together and cut out. So there's not really much to show you because it's all like pinned in all the different pieces. Because like I said, I went through and I pinned everything, but it is all cut out. Show you some of the different fabrics. And I know this was from Lola Boutique. Let's see. The flower pot line. But as you can see, I've got all my pieces cut in there. And yes, this is how I store my sampler projects. I put them all back in there. Okay. So like I said, I worked on that. Let's see, I also worked on some more Creative Notion subscription boxes from a long time ago. I no longer get this subscription. And I do know that they had changed their subscriptions to every other month instead of every month, which is fine. But let me show you the picture. Now, when this particular subscription box came out, this was a couple years ago, they didn't have my pattern in the box, so I'd emailed them and they just emailed the instructions, so I printed it out. So these are in black and white, not colored, because my printer is only black and white. But this is what I'm working on. So I had the last step of all these little blocks pinned together. So next time I go to the sewing machine, all these blocks will be made. I'll just have to start pinning them together into the rows. So let's show you some of these. These are pinwheel blocks. This is another pinwheel block. These are house blocks. Like I said, they're pinned. House blocks. Oh, these are the fussy cut star. I'm not going to unpin that because that's together, but it's this star right down here. This is the big heart, and it's all done. Got that all done. Alright, now we're into some of these letters, and I'm not going to show you all the letters, but I will show you a few. This is an H. Like I said, it's just pinned together. An H, let's see, the O. An M. Like I said again, pinned together, but when I take it to the sewing machine, it'll all be sewn. And an E. Okay, so I worked on that. Let me put this up. So I've also worked on these baskets, again from a Creative Notion subscription box from a couple years ago. Now these two baskets have already been made, but I worked on this basket right here, which is basically making a 9 patch, attaching some ribbon, and then flipping it out with some flex foam. So now I've got it pinned because I just need to top stitch all the way around. I need to add some quilting lines in there, and the quilting lines will end up being my fold lines. And then it will fold and you can tie it with that ribbon. to make a basket. I've also worked on this basket up here, which I worked on the patchwork, and then after I got the patchwork done, I quilted the patchwork to some flex foam, and then I've got it clipped to the vinyl bottom, and I'll show you how that looks like. Now, I love my pens, but since I'm using vinyl, I couldn't use pens because it was going to poke holes into the vinyls, so I do have my Wonder Clips for that. And that is as far as I am there. Okay. So a few more Sew Sampler projects. I worked on this Daydreamer quilt pattern. And I have all the blocks done. And I've got them pinned together into their rows. So there's 3 rows. So that is the first row. And then we have a sashing row. My sashing row, and then another row. So I worked on that. And this video was already too long, so I'm going to see if I can speed it up a little bit. Now, because I talked too long at the beginning. But as always, if there's any questions that you want to know, just ask down in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them. I may even address them on another video. Then I worked on this next pattern. Now this is a pattern I got from Polar Fabrics. It was actually a kit that had like 5 1-yard cuts in it, and then you got to pick a free pattern. And this is the free pattern that went with this blocky block. So it's basically 2 different blocks that you put in alternating rows, and then you add the borders. So here's the one block. Like I said, there it is. It's pinned. And here's the second block. So I worked on that. Now my mom had asked me if I'd had any extra fabric of this, because she needed some, because she had bought some fabric just like this. She asked me to a 2-inch strip. I don't. I used all of it in strips. But I do have these leftover pieces if you want those, Mom. Let me know. You can have these. All right. And I worked on 2 other quilt projects. Let me pull them out. Okay, another Sew Sampler project. This is Wipeout. And this is actually using the Snail's Trails paper foundation paper piecing. However, with this particular foundation, you have to sew a 4-patch before you start actually piecing it. So I've got all my 4 patches sewn together, and they are all pressed open on the back. So I can start making some blocks now to turn into this. Worked on that. And I worked on this Jolly Bar pattern. So this is the Strawberry Lemonade line from Sherry and Chelsea. And now a Jolly Bar is exclusive to Fat Quarter Shop, and it's a pre-cut fabric that is 5 by 10, and it comes with a free pattern. This was the free pattern that came with it, but I did not want to do that pattern. So I have some Jolly Bar books, and they use the Jolly Bars from Fat Quarter Shop. And I am now doing this Shoe Fly Pie quilt pattern with it. So this is what I'm doing. And I will show you where we're at. So these are what the blocks look like. Now, I've got them pinned together to sew kind of like in a 4-patch now. So this will be the top. And this will be the bottom. I'm going to put it on its side. So it will look something like that. And I do have them grouped together in kind of like the color families to have all 9 of those blocks. Now I don't know what I did with that pin. There it is. Now I didn't quite have enough orange or this yellowy green fabric, so I'm just going to put those two together. To make that block. And then we've got some more greens, and I'll show you one of the pinks. Here's a pink. Okay, so that is everything that I worked on as far as sewing and quilting goes. Next, let me show you what I did in cross stitch. So I have been working on these Country Cottage Needlework Sampler of the Month, and this is the picture for what August looks like. There's sand castles and seashells, and they got little birds right there. And these are little seashells up in here. So here is August. So August is done. And this is September. I only got a few stitches in September. But this is what September looks like. And it's got the apples and the books for school. There we go. That's as far as I got on September. And I will wait until I get a couple of these done before I finish them into that easel. Again, I don't like doing one at a time. I have to do a couple together. So, now, my crochet. I have been working on this cardigan from Lether Co. And you can buy this pattern from their letherco.com. This is the cardigan. And this is a very size inclusive pattern. It goes from extra small all the way up to 5X. So, and this is using a sock weight yarn, #1 yarn. So it is taking a long time to get done, but we are making progress. The back panel is done. And then I was working on the right front panel last week, which I got that. The right front panel is all done. And now I'm working over here on the left front panel. So that's where we are. So I got to get that left panel done, and then I can make a side seams up the sides. Still have to make some sleeves and sew the sleeves in. Again, this is probably going to take a little bit longer, just because, like I said, it's that very small, thin weight yarn, so it takes a while. And the last thing that I have, so this is my diamond painting. There is a picture of what it should look like when it's all done. Sorry, I know I'm not holding it steady, but this is where I am. We are almost there, just working up at the top here to finish it. As you can see, she's got a big piece missing up there, the forehead bang area. And some pieces over there, and then this sections. And then that will be done. Okay, so that is everything that I have worked on this week. Have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer them. All right, till next time.